So in today's tutorial, I'm going to walk you through 3 different methods on how to install Grafana monitoring tool on Raspberry Pi. These methods also are applicable to other Linux-based operating systems. In today's tutorial, I'm leveraging the Raspberry Pi 5, which is already installed on my network over there, but any other, let's say Raspberry Pi or other type of Linux-based systems will work. So here I also the Raspberry Pi 4, which will also work. To begin, make sure that on your Raspberry Pi OS is installed on your board. You have identified IP address and enabled SSH for remote access. We are going to make the Raspberry Pi headless, so which means it can operate without external monitor. So for that we are going to leverage and install the VNC server. This will allow you to control Raspberry Pi using graphical interface remotely. So let's get started. So right now we are going to install the VNC server on our Raspberry Pi. So for that I'm going to make a remote connection over SSH to my Raspberry Pi, so I enter the necessary credentials. But before we install VNC, I'm going to showcase you that when I try to connect from my laptop to Raspberry Pi over VNC, I will be getting error that the connection has been refused because the Raspberry Pi doesn't listen on the VNC connections over the port 5900. So that's why we need to first install it. So before installation, I typically refresh my current software repository list through sudo aptitude update command. Then we can search if we don't know the name of the VNC server that is available in the Raspberry Pi OS software repository. So I know that I'm looking for RealVNC, but you can just put VNC and it will find you all the software packages for VNC capabilities. So I will copy paste the full name of RealVNC server and then run sudo aptitude install RealVNC VNC server command, which will install the VNC server application. Now I will run the sudo rasbi config, through which I can allow the VNC server to be enabled whenever I restart the Raspberry Pi. So I navigate to Raspberry Pi configuration tool. Under the interface options, I select VNC. And you see, in this case, I obtained the error because I don't have some specific dependencies installed. So that's why I need to exit the software and upgrade the Raspberry Pi operating system, which can take a couple of minutes. Once I have the necessary, either specific dependency or upgraded system, I can navigate back to Raspberry Pi software configuration tool under interface options, VNC option, and this time I'm able to enable VNC server on my Raspberry Pi. After this action, I'm able to make VNC connection over the default 5900 port into the Raspberry Pi. As part of the first installation method, we are going to outline the manual installation method of Grafana on Raspberry Pi using the official Grafana recommendations. So before we start with installation of Grafana, we need to meet some prerequisites. So first of all, we need to add the apt key, which will be used to authenticate the packages. Then we need to add the Grafana apt repository. Once we have added the Grafana apt repository to our system, we'll need to refresh the software repository list with update command and install the Grafana tool from those newly added software repositories. At this point, the Grafana tool is installed, but it's not running yet. So before we start this service right now, we want to make sure that we enable the Grafana tool as a service, because we want to make sure that Grafana starts anytime the system reboots. So to do so, we can run sudo systemctl enable Grafana server command. So in order to start the Grafana server, we will run sudo systemctl start Grafana server command. At this point, the Grafana is fully running on the machine and accessible from any device on our network. We can verify that by navigating to the browser and typing HTTP and IP address of the Raspberry Pi. If you are running this verification step from Raspberry itself, you can just type localhost colon and the default port on which Grafana is listening, which is 3000. I will have displayed the Grafana welcome page where we can, or the Grafana login page. In this page you can log in by using the default credentials, which is admin for username and admin for the password. And with this, congrats, the Grafana is now running on your Raspberry Pi. So now we can move to the installation method 2. So in order to make the steps that we described in first installation method even easier, I have prepared the script which automates all of the steps we discussed in the first example. You can clone my GitHub repository with the automation code. Then you can download, change to the working directory where the script is located and execute this code. Once the script will finish at its execution, you have the Grafana to install. So you can just navigate to the browser at localhost colon 3000 port and log in with the default credentials admin, and you have fully running the Grafana tool. So this is really easy way to get started with Grafana. So now we are going to take it step further, and the third way is to automate it actually even more. So on my GitHub page, I have basically one-liner command that you can run. This command will replicate the GitHub repository code with necessary scripts, which will install the Grafana monitoring tool and its all dependencies. Then it will install something called Selenium and its dependencies for web automation testing. After installing the Grafana and other dependencies, the browser will launch on its own and will auto log into the Grafana tool with one simple command that you can just copy paste and run on your machine. So again, with this one-liner command, everything is set up in a few seconds or a few minutes. How cool is that? That concludes today's tutorial. Stay tuned for more content like this and subscribe if you would like to get notified for my future content. Bye.